Issue 229. We start out with Sonic being told over an announcement that Eggman's searching for him on the egg carrier, and he'll find him eventually because of the tracking ring attached to his leg now. Then Sonic's told that if he attacks him, the tracking ring will electrocute him. Sonic avoids a blast from a ray gun from Eggman, and then when we see the new Echidna, who seems to have a British accent, when I thought, I guess he comes from a different place than Zachary does? Telling Zachary that he appreciates being freed from the prison in the floating island, which I can only assume generously keeps his prisoners alive in the millennia they're there, like Zachary. But then he complains that they should logically just electrocute Sonic and be done with it rather than wasting time with his plan. He says this as Tails is trapped in a plastic bag with water filling up in it. Zachary says they need Sonic alive for now. He sees through a camera that Sonic's found the ventilation system, and Sonic defeats a robot and takes something from it that lets him destroy the tracking ring on him. He gets past the more robots and traps, and then he's annoyed by an Omochao saying he's here to tell him where to go in the Death Carrier. I like that it's called a new name for originality and to make it more menacing. And it's interesting that Omochao is being used in an actual story. Sonic runs to the back of the ship and destroys what Tails has kept in to save him, and makes a joke that he always said he was a big trip, but it's clearly just to relieve stress since he still looks serious and concerned for him. He destroys some robots calling Tails buddy and calling the robots old models. Then after he briefly wonders where Eggman is, Eggman tries to fire at him with a ray gun and misses. Some more robots show up, with Tails arbitrarily saying they can't take them all on, when he's talking to someone who has super speed and beats every badnik effortlessly, especially old models like these. That's genre blind. Sonic tells him to relax and says that if he remembers, a hydraulic pump sends water outside. So he presses it, and then we cut to him riding on top of something with yellow water below it and a robot flying after them. Sonic reassures Tails, "We'll get him next time, buddy," and grabs his hand when he's flying to make him stand on the air scooter behind him. Zachary then reveals that today was never about killing Sonic. Instead, the tissue samples from the tracking ring have allowed him to finish a project that was begun by the ancient enemies of the Echidna race, and he creates Shadow in order to destroy the world. I'm so hyped with this! This is awesome! This is what Shadow's backstory should have been. First off, he's made from Sonic's DNA, and Hedgehog DNA, explaining why he's a hedgehog. And second, his desire to destroy the world is justified right off the bat the minute he's born. And plus, his existence creates more world building because he was started by the ancient enemies of the Echidnas. So maybe those ancient enemies were the hedgehogs, which would be beautiful thematically because Sonic and Knuckles were always rivals, so they're rival races. Though, it's probably just the ancient enemies of the Echidnas or the Dracons, which would be really boring. I mean, I guess they were the only enemies of the Echidnas that were established, but if it was the Dracons, you'd think that he would just say that. And with Shadow basically being created by the Fleetway Dr. Finitivis, it feels completely justified to have him be so evil in this comic, which is a refreshing twist on his character after he spent the whole franchise with the anti-hero stick, which was done amazingly in SA2 but got cliche and lazy afterwards. The best villains have sympathetic excuses, but at this point I'm just interested in seeing how Shadow can be portrayed in a refreshing way because I'm tired of him the way he is. The franchise in general has really started stagnating ever since the Pontiac and Graf era. So, at this point, I'd welcome any sort of gutsiness. The next story has Tikal, who has amnesia, say that Megapolis City on the floating island feels familiar when it's just a place full of damaged golden buildings. She sheds a tear at the idea that everything she knew in her old life is gone and everything was destroyed. This place wasn't destroyed, it's just got some damage to it. Knuckles says he used to live in the ancient past like her, so why doesn't Ebony just get Pajama here and you make a mind link with her to get most of her memories back? She doesn't have to get back her Chaos memory. Is she assuming that if she remembers anything about her past, she'll automatically remember what happened to Chaos? I'm sure a magical memory power psychic like Pajamas could create a block on her memory so that she'd never ever be able to remember being stuck in chaos. For some reason, Knuckles really wants to break Ebony's spell on Tikal, even though he clearly saw how she was acting when she remembered her worst memories. Obviously, you should keep the spell, but just alter it so that it only mostly works. Then we see someone with yellow gloves being yelled at to drop something, as I wonder why Knuckles can't hear that because I immediately assumed he would. Chaos tells Big to drop the statue to kill them because he wants the emeralds to regain his powers. Big says he doesn't want to hurt them, and surprisingly, all he has to do is ask him nicely to push the statue over, and he does so. Huh? Anyways, the statue misses, and we see them all suddenly in an icy mountain with Knuckles getting worried. Then they're back in Megapolis with no explanation, and Knuckles tells his friends to stay there, while he'll take the Zoot Tube to the Chaos Chamber. There he sees some guard robots in front of the Emerald Pedestal, which has white lightning coming out of it. And Knuckles complains that he had told the robots to work on repairs to the damaged monuments. They've obviously been reprogrammed by Zachary. What other explanation could there be? He realizes that someone's changed the settings on the control panel as he sees a monitor with an error screen on it. This is tense. There's an explosion, Tikal seems to panic as if she's remembering something in the smoke, and somehow Knuckles is perfectly unharmed, reuniting with her while holding her hands. He explains that the explosion ejected the island's power source, but didn't do any serious damage. He asks where Porker and the emeralds are, and the story ends with Big saying he knows who took the emeralds. This issue is by Ed Reynolds. In the first story, Sonic gets rid of the tracking ring on him with the part from a Badnik, and Omochao tells him where Tails is, helpfully, because I guess either it's good and has free will, or Zachary wanted him to tell him where to go. And he saves Tails from drowning as a result and escapes the egg and escapes the Death Carrier. Then we end off with the awesome revelation that in this continuity, Shadow was created not from any sort of aliens. Well, unless the Dracon are supposed to be the dumb aliens. Thank God, I assumed he would be even more of an alien here. But instead, he was created from Sonic's DNA to complete an anti-Echidna ancient project. And Zachary made him to destroy the world for him. This is so well put together. This explains everything. It's why he has Sonic's powers, why he's a hedgehog, and why he's evil, all in one fell swoop. In every other continuity, he has the same backstory because fuck originality and effort, and it sucks. Because we only got the third thing explained. And while I respect the Maria thing and how it makes him emotionally closer to Hope, no one did the sympathetic villain as well as he did in the games. Ultimately, I'm excited to see the Ultimate Lifeform with a villain focus for continuity for a change. It's a shame you couldn't have this backstory in every continuity. It's so much more logical and simple. The thing I'm worried about is that what if the people that originally started his project were the Dracons, just because they were enemies of the Echidnas? That would be boring and predictable. I mean, that wasn't my assumption at first when reading this. Because, yeah, go figure, the Echidnas could have easily had multiple different enemies. Because they, ran the whole world, they took over the whole world. They would have made enemies out of everybody. So it would really suck if it was the Dracons. I don't know. The second story, Big just frustrates me, because at first he's morally righteous, not wanting to do what Chaos says, but the minute he asks nicely, he pushes a statue, misses, and then Chaos takes away the emeralds and an explosion happens, creating smoke everywhere, which somehow Knuckles survives with no injuries whatsoever and no one questioning that. This is getting to be a habit at this point. What's wrong with characters having to make a trip to the hospital? It shows consequences. Not even a bruise? You could have a little time skip. At the end, Big is opposed to Chaos and tells them what happened. So maybe Chaos got free from him, but he's a fish. Did he just flop around and reprogram the robots and control panel? Did he get Zachary's help when he's supposed to be on the egg carrier right now? It's not clear what's going on at the end.